They arrived without ceremony. 3 vessels breaching local space-time like glass under pressure, their sleek silver hulls humming with barely restrained energy. The Council had known they would come, had even invited them. But seeing the human ships hanging in orbit above the galactic capital stirred discomfort in the chamber's elder species. Ambassador Kael'var the Valari adjusted the folds of his mantle, slitted eyes narrowing. "Primitive construction," he murmured, his voice a soft vibration. "Crude propulsion. Excessive weapon mounts. Typical of war-born mammals." His remark went unchallenged. From the high dais, Chancellor Orlos of Zorth watched the docking sequence unfold. His species, ancient and telepathic, preferred order above all. Humanity was a variable they had neither anticipated nor desired. Still, protocol demanded contact, observation, evaluation. The humans disembarked from their shuttle with measured confidence. Their leader, a woman in her mid-40s with gray at her temples, and the bearing of a soldier, stepped forward first. Her name, according to the packet, was Ambassador Evelyn Rourke. She wore no visible weapon, but her posture was a warning in itself. Behind her came 2 aides and a synthetic being, human-shaped but not human. It moved with uncanny grace, its chrome eyes scanning everything. The council chamber, vaulted and vast, fell into silence. Rourke stopped precisely at the demarcated speaking point. She raised her chin, and her voice, when it came, was steady and clear. "We come in peace. We come with intent to join the galactic community." Predictable, rehearsed, Chancellor Orlos did not respond. Instead, he gestured to Kael'var, who stepped forward. "You claim peace, yet your species is saturated with war. You burn worlds before learning their names. Your brief history is one of conquest. What makes you think the Council should admit you among us?" Rourke didn't blink. "Because we learn, because we change, and because we know the cost of both." A ripple of telepathic disdain pulsed from the Zorith bench. The Valari sneered in visible silence. The Drux, a cold-blooded, logic-bound species of crystalline exoskeletons, simply recorded everything with glowing blue lenses. Kael'var clicked his mandibles. "We have no need of another violent child among us." "And yet here we are," Rourke replied, her voice hardening. "You invited us. You knew we were coming. Why?" For a moment, no one answered. Then, in a slow, deliberate voice, Orlos said, "Because it is better to see the fire than to be surprised by it." The session adjourned shortly after, unresolved. Rourke returned to her ship under escort, her jaw tight. Within the Unity's reach, her temporary command vessel, Rourke's demeanor shifted from diplomacy to frustration the moment the doors hissed shut. "They're not just skeptical, they're afraid." Her aide, a young man named Theo Vance, nodded. "They see us as a threat." "We are," Rourke said, "but not the kind they think." The synthetic, designated Aegis 9, tilted its head. Probability matrix indicates a 72% chance the Council will move to restrict Earth's expansion, possibly by force. Rourke paced. "Then we need to make sure the first strike isn't theirs." The strategy session was interrupted by a sudden alert. Proximity breach. Unauthorized docking. Within seconds, the ship's bridge lit up with red glyphs, alien signatures. "They're boarding us," Theo said, his voice tight with disbelief. "On a diplomatic mission." Aegis 9 moved instantly, interfacing with ship security. 3 Zora soldiers, armed, attempting containment of our data core. "Stall them," Rourke ordered. She moved toward the corridor without hesitation, Theo and Aegis flanking her. "We're not here to be disrespected." They reached the data vault just as a plasma charge blew the bulkhead. The alien soldiers entered, tall, 4-armed beings clad in psionic armor. They froze upon seeing Rourke, likely expecting no resistance. They were wrong. Aegis 9 moved like liquid lightning, disabling one with precise neuroshock. Theo took cover and fired a non-lethal charge, dropping the second. The third raised a weapon, but Rourke was already in motion. Her fist cracked across the Zortha's jawline, followed by a stun rod to the chest. 30 seconds. 3 unconscious invaders. By the time galactic security forces arrived, the humans had restrained their attackers and secured the vault. This was a breach of every diplomatic code, Rourke said to the council envoy, her uniform scuffed, eyes blazing. We were boarded. We defended ourselves. And if you think we won't again, you don't understand us. The envoy, a Valari named Teshlin, regarded her with unreadable expression. You misunderstand. This was not council-sanctioned, but it was allowed. Rourke returned to Earth that evening on encrypted FTL. The transmission she brought with her was damning. Video footage, data logs, and weapon telemetry, all clearly showing that their so-called welcome had been a ruse. Within days, the United Earth Directorate convened an emergency session. The news went global within hours. Humanity had been tested, and humanity would respond. Unity, once an abstract dream, crystallized into iron resolve. Borders dissolved overnight. National armies consolidated. Scientists worked without sleep. Hackers mobilized. Dissent collapsed under the weight of imminent survival. For the first time in centuries, humanity became one thing. And from the underground forums to the halls of government, a single phrase surged to the surface of the human lexicon. Humanity, fuck yeah, they had come offering peace. They had left with a declaration. Rourke stood in the command center of Earth's orbital defense platform, gazing at the holographic fleet formations. Around her, admirals and strategists prepared not just for survival, but for victory. We warned them, she said softly, mostly to herself. Beside her, Aegis 9's optical sensors glowed, and they ignored the warning. The stars beyond the viewport pulsed like distant memories. Then they'll learn, Rourke whispered, what it means to threaten the species that conquered its own extinction. And in the quiet before the war, Earth exhaled its last breath of peace. The first attack came without preamble. A massive energy surge ruptured the silence near Mars' orbit. An entire Zorth war phalanx, snapping into real space like thunder across vacuum. 36 ships, dark and angular, shimmered with psionic shielding as they moved in perfect formation. No warning, no declaration, just annihilation. They targeted the Martian colonies first, mining stations, habitat domes, orbital elevators, burning them in coordinated volleys. The colony of New Thessalon fell within minutes. Its population vaporized before the distressed beacon finished broadcasting. On Earth, Rourke watched the footage in silence. Her expression did not change, but Theo could see the fury boiling beneath the surface. They didn't just strike us, he said. They wanted us to see it. Rourke nodded. Intimidation. Surgical brutality. This wasn't a battle, it was theater. And the audience was us. Not just us. She turned from the display. Every other species watching to see if we'd fold. In the following days, humanity responded. Not with desperation, but precision. From the shipyards of Luna to the bunkers in Siberia. Earth's production ramped into wartime overdrive. They didn't have the fleet numbers. They didn't have the alien psionics or millennia of interstellar logistics. What they had was rage and creativity and a knack for breaking things that weren't supposed to break. In the asteroid field of Epsilon Idris, a human patrol ambushed a Valari scout when using reprogrammed mining drones rigged with ion grenades. In the Kuiper Belt, a stealth corvette hacked into a Druk surveillance satellite and fed it false reports for 2 weeks before detonating its core, crippling the enemy's long-range scans. Small victories, but each one a signal. Humanity was bleeding, yes, but learning fast. The turning point came at Alpha Pixis. The system was a strategic choke point, one of the few routes between Council space and the outer colonies. The Zorth had fortified it with a siege station the size of Manhattan, surrounded by 20 capital ships and hundreds of drones. The human fleet sent only 5 ships, all volunteers. The commander was Captain Elias Morin, a man known more for poetry than military genius. But he understood something the Council had overlooked. No human feared death if the cause was right. Morin's flagship, the Horizon's Blade, initiated the assault by broadcasting a message on all frequencies, his voice calm, his tone resolute. To those who believe us beasts, understand this. It is not what we crave, but peace. It is not blood we seek, but dignity. You took the choice from us. So now we answer. Then silence. And fire. The 5 ships surged forward under heavy suppressive fire, weaving and scattering, acting like no battle doctrine the Council had ever seen. Instead of fighting defensively, they sacrificed. One vessel rammed a drone carrier, detonating its fusion core and taking 15 enemy ships offline. Another buried itself into the siege station's shielding array and manually detonated its warhead, shattering the barrier for just 9 seconds. It was enough. The Horizon's blade fired a payload of antimatter torpedoes directly into the station's exposed ventral core. The explosion lit up the system. Captain Morin's ship disintegrated in the blast, but his transmission, recorded unfiltered raw, was already spreading across frequencies, across species, across galaxies. By the time the Council confirmed the destruction of their fortress, alien worlds not aligned with them had already begun rebroadcasting Morin's message. And something shifted, not in the Council, in the people it governed. On the Valari colony of Nurazel, students began painting murals of the explosion, labeling it the light of defiance. A Druk philosopher published a treatise titled The Paradox of Humanity, Order Through Chaos. It was banned within hours and downloaded 1 million times the next day. Even among the Zorith, dissent began to rumble, whispers of admiration, unsettling questions. Back on Earth, Rourke stood before a growing wall of names, engraved one by one, each belonging to someone lost since Mars. Captain Morin's name had been added last. "We become their symbol," Theo said, stepping beside her. "Resistance, rebellion, hope. We were never supposed to win," she replied. "Just survive long enough to make them doubt." Aegis, 9 enter with a data slate. Priority intelligence from intercepted Council transmissions. Multiple species refusing deployment orders. Civil unrest in 6 outer systems. 79% probability the Council fractures within the year. Rourke didn't smile. "Not yet. And retaliation? Expected. They'll come harder this time. Bigger fleet. Less mercy." Theo exhaled. "Then we make it cost them more than they're willing to pay." Later that night, alone in her quarters, Rourke replayed Morin's final speech. Not because she needed to. She'd memorized every word. But because she needed to feel it. "We are not monsters. We are not animals. We are the product of survival, of fire, of the long night. And if we must stand alone in the cold to prove our worth, then we will do so, and we will not kneel." She closed her eyes and let the silence settle. For the first time in weeks, she didn't feel tired. The Council had underestimated Earth's weapons, its tactics, its unity. But most of all, they had underestimated its will. The void above Solaris Prime boiled with fire and silence. Council fleets, once symbols of absolute control, drifted in fractured formation, half disabled, half retreating. Human ships, leaner and fewer, moved like wolves through the wreckage, harrying the stragglers with calculated precision. It wasn't dominance. It was persistence, the kind that didn't burn out, the kind that broke empires. Ambassador Rourke stood in the forward observation chamber of the Horizon Reborn, Earth's first deep strike dreadnought. Her gaze was fixed on the fractured crescent of the alien capital in the distance, still flickering from orbital bombardment. It was a message, not destruction. They'd left the government buildings intact. "We hold the orbit," Aegis 9 confirmed beside her. Its voice, once purely mechanical, now carried the faint nuance of learned human rhythm. Enemy communications disrupted. Civilian broadcasts unrestricted. Resistance cells across 4 species now transmitting openly. Theo approached, datapad in hand, the grim satisfaction of victory not yet softening the edge in his voice. "They're calling for talks. Not the Council, the people." Rourke didn't move. "Of course they are. The Council's voice isn't theirs anymore." Theo handed her the pad. "You're scheduled to speak to the Unified Assembly in 2 hours. First human to address a galactic forum." "I'll speak," she said, turning away from the stars. "But I'm not here to lecture." The transport descended with a planetary escort, half human, half alien. Strange allies bound not by treaties, but by something raw, shared defiance. The assembly hall was a shadow of its former self. gone with the towering banners of Zorth rule. In their place, screens streamed live footage from liberated colonies, alien civilians waving human flags, singing in borrowed Earth languages. The hall, quieted as Rourke took the platform. She wore no armor, no medals, just the simple uniform of the Earth Diplomatic Corps. Behind her stood Theo and Aegis, 9, silent but unshakable. She began without preamble. We came to you in peace. You met us with fear. We offered unity. You answered with war. And when you underestimated us, we rose, not to conquer, but to survive. There was no applause, only silence. Every species in the room listened not out of obligation, but out of necessity. We are not perfect. We never claim to be, but we adapt. We endure. And when the fire comes, we carry others through it. She paused, letting the weight settle. Her next words weren't directed at the diplomats in front of her, but the millions watching from fractured worlds. Humanity was forged in chaos, in cold, in extinction. We didn't crawl out of the dark because someone guided us. We fought our way out, tooth and nail, screaming into the void until it screamed back. This time, a murmur rippled through the chamber. Not fear, recognition. You feared us because you saw violence. But what you failed to see was purpose, sacrifice, hope. That's what makes us dangerous. Not our weapons, not our machines, our will. The Valari representative stood, slowly. Then what do you want? Rourke's eyes met his. A new table, a new voice for those who were never allowed one, not just for humans, but for everyone who was told to kneel. A silence stretched long and deep. Then, one by one, assembly members began to stand. Not a majority. Not yet, but enough. Enough to matter. Later, as the sun set over Solaris Prime's fractured skyline, Rourke stood alone at the edge of a shattered balcony, the wind tugging at her sleeves. Theo joined her quietly. You changed something in there. No, she said. We did. Morin, the colonies, the students painting explosions, the Druk philosopher, every voice that refused to go silent. Aegis 9 approached. Council remnants remain active in 4 sectors. Hostile, but disorganized. They'll keep fighting, Theo said. They always do, Rourke replied. But it won't matter. Not anymore. In the valley below, a statue was being raised. 2 figures, one human, one alien, side by side, not in triumph, but in solidarity. Beneath them, the inscription read, We did not ask for war, but we refuse to lose ourselves in peace. Rourke looked up at the stars. Somewhere, Earth was just another point of light now. Not the center, just part of something larger. We came screaming into the dark, she said softly, and now we carry the torch. Behind her, Theo smiled for first time in days. Humanity? Fuck yeah. And this time, it wasn't a war cry. It was a promise. The void above Solaris Prime was not with fire and silence. It was weight. Council fleets, orbiting a once-feared council of absolute control, now under jointed in fractured formation. Rourke sat alone in a high-orbit station, half retreating. Her gaze fixed on a slowly rotating alien moon, moved like wolves through the wreckage. A new alliance parrying the stragglers with calculated fragile and real. It wasn't dominance. The tension in her shoulders never left. The kind that didn't burn Progress reports from outer rim colonies. Ambassador Rourke stood stepping into the room, observation tablet cradled in his arms. Earth's 57 species now formally recognized. Her gaze was fixed on the fractured another 14 alien capital in the distance. She nodded at flickering from orbital bombardment. It was a message, not destruction. They left the government buildings. I'm hoping we fail. We hold it. We might, she said. Aegis, we're not 9 confirmed beside her. Not yet. Its voice, you think the war taught us how to fight. Now not how to faint nuance of learned human rhythm. She replied, enemy communications disrupted. We're still figuring out what it means to be more than survivors. Resistance cells across 4 species now transmitting openly. Its mechanical frame wrapped in the flowing blue datapad of Concord emissary protocol. Grim satisfaction threat matrix has not yet softening the edge. Zorth remnants have consolidated. They're calling for 3 rogue fleets, not the council. No longer acting as military command. Didn't move. now behaving like zealots. The council's voice isn't theirs anymore. Religious. Theo handed her the pad. Something close. You're scheduled to confirm the unified ideological period in 2 hours. Purging first human to address a galactic forum. Extremism. Not strategy, she said. Rourke stood, turning away from the stars. Her weariness transforming. But I'm not here to lecture. Determination. The transport descended with a planetary escort in corners. Half human, they're broadcasting messages. Strange allies bound not by calling for a cleansing, but by something raw. Specifically naming Earth as the origin of galactic decay was a shadow of its former self. They're not wrong, she said. Gone with the towering banners of Zorth rule, but it deserved to be broken. Screen streamed live footage from liberated colonies, bringing up a galactic map. Alien civilians red markers lit the screen, singing in borrowed Earth languages, intercepted communications. Disrupted trade lanes, took the platform. But another color caught her eye. She wore no armor, green, no metal, pockets of cooperation, just the simple uniform of the shared diplomatic corps. It was spreading. Behind her stood Theo, not dominance, Aegis, solidarity, silent but wasn't enough. She began without preamble. She said, "We came to open it to all Concord members. You met us with fear, encrypted. We offered you eyes only. You answered moments later. And when you underestimated before a camera, we rose the war room, not to conquer, not as to survive, not even as an ambassador." As only a human, silence. I'm not going to lie to you. Every species in the room, she began. Listen, not out of obligation, this wouldn't end cleanly, but out of necessity. Empires don't just fall. We are not perfect. They bleed. We never claim sometimes to be, they rot. But we adapt. She paused. We endure. We broke the council. And when the fire comes, not because we wanted to rule, but because we couldn't accept being ruled. Settled. Her next words weren't directed. What's left of that old order wants to burn everything. But the millions watching from fractured worlds. Her hands tightened behind her back. Humanity was forged in chaos. Let me be clear. And cold, we won't go back. In extinction. We won't kneel. We didn't crawl out of the dark, but neither will someone guided us. We fought our way out, tooth and nail. From today forward, screaming into the void. Every Concord world under threat will be defended. This time, not because it's rippled through the chamber, not because it serves Earth recognition, but because we said we feared us because you saw violence, and that means we protect. But what you failed to see across hundreds of systems, sacrifice. Her message echoed hope through crumbling marketplaces, distant mining outposts, not our machines. Alien academies built on bones of war. The Valari representative stood in a dim-lit command ship far from any what do you want? The last Rourke's High Lords watched her speech through flickering lenses. A new voice for those who were never allowed. He only gestured, not just for humans, but for every strike at the colony of Eisenhower. A silence stretched still rebuilding its atmospheric lattice. One by one, the sky burned. Assembly members began to stand. 5,000 civilians, not a majority. Half of them not non-human, but enough. It wasn't a mistake. Enough to matter. It was a declaration. As the sun spawned Solaris Prime's fractured skyline. Zeta. Led Rourke by stood alone at the edge of a shattered balcony. A precision strike against the attack tugging at her sleeves. Disabling Theo joined her quietly, boarding it mid-collapse. You changed something in there. No prisoners. No broadcast. We did. Just silent resolve. The colonies. Rourke arrived at the wreckage students painting explosions. Not for cleanup. The Druck for something else. Every voice that scorched colony fields with Eisenhower surviving Aegis 9 approach. A council remnant whose crystalline limbs moved with shivering fatigue. Hostile. My people thought the humans would leave us to burn. They'll keep fighting, voice Theo said. That they always do. Just that, Rourke replied. But Rourke kneeled and placed the data module into her hand. In the valley emergency below, infrastructure a statue was being raised. Medical two aid figures, one human, one alien, defense side by side, not in triumph, but in solidarity. We don't build things them the old way. The inscription read, Rourke said, "We did not ask for war, but we do. But we refuse to lose ourselves." When she returned to orbit, Rourke looked up. A message awaited. One line from Admiral Chun. Earth was just another point. One fleet is not enough. Not the center. She read it twice, part of something larger, and nodded. We came within screaming into the dark. Earth unveiled Project Aegis. And now we carry the defense initiative under behind her oversight. Theo smiled for the first time in days. Command structures humanity equal. Fuck yeah. Every species who had fought. And this time, and bled, it wasn't a stand on the line. It was a promise. Behind Earth. Beside it, Theo watched the first cruiser, the Unity's Flame, leave dock with quiet awe. They're calling us the center of a new age. No, Rourke said. We're just a match that lit it. As the ship disappeared into slipstream, the stars blinked in slow rhythm, and somewhere beyond them, in the dark that always follows peace, something waited, watching, adapting. Rourke turned away from the viewport, her voice soft but steel-laced. Let them come. Because now, they weren't the only ones ready.